stories concerning wildlife. It's concerning a rhino.
A rhino? Blimey.
Right? Yeah, a rhino. I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field. Put your foot down." This rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Tunisia years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting his front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its 2 front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson had been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich, don't dirty minds, away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, Christ, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 enthralling hours of news, views and dynamic debate. Get on the phone, get on the show and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, August the 8th. Here's what's coming up. As we... hang on. This is the wrong... sorry, I've got to start again there, folks. This is the wrong list here. Bear with me. It is still Friday, the... look at this, a good start. This will be on Mike Graham's gaffes next week. Don't tell him, anyone. For God's sake, don't tell him. Yes, where were we? Yes, it's Friday. It's Friday! Come on, it's the weekend, don't worry about it. It's Friday, August the 8th. Here's what's coming up. The frightening rising tally of asylum seekers all over the country charged with sex crimes. Not just the alleged rape of women, but an alarming number of minors and children too. That, of course, goes hand in hand with a rising number of serious crime allegations against asylum seekers generally. We got a problem here, folks. In the once genteel seaside town of Bournemouth, since 3 of the resort's holiday hotels were turned into migrants' accommodation centres, cases of rape and sexual assault have spiralled. With hundreds of trials of asylum seekers pending, it is important to stress that at this point, most of these horror stories are allegations, not convictions. But this is fast becoming a national crisis. What should be done? 0344 499 1000. Here's what definitely won't solve this clear and present danger to British women and children. 2 tiers ludicrous 17 in 1 out swap a foreigner scheme. Today the Prime Minister stands accused of gaslighting the nation by acting as if he's finally found the deterrent we've all been waiting for. But Starmer's dismal deal with Macron offers cross-channel chances a 94% opportunity of getting away with it. 94% chance of getting away with it and being allowed to stay. And that means getting away with breaking the law, which, if you're pondering hopping on a small boat in Calais, makes it well worth a roll of the dice, doesn't it? How rubbish is that? 0344499 1000. I will stop at nothing to secure Britain's borders, pledged the PM, who continues to stop at ceasing for migrants 50 quid a week benefits, free accommodation, often in luxury 4-star hotels, free food 7 days a week, free healthcare, free dentistry, free lawyers to fight their cases to stay, free driving lessons, and so much more. Doesn't stop at any of that. If you did stop all of that, Keir, you would stop the boats. Why don't you stop all of that? Won't stop at, I'll stop at nothing. Honestly, he is gaslighting us. He's a liar. 0344499 1000. In other news, even by Westminster's low standards, you have to admire the sheer epic hypocrisy of Labour's former homelessness minister Rameshwara Ali, who quit yesterday after getting caught making her 4 tenants homeless. She made them homeless by evicting them. I say quit, but it's pretty clear she was, as they say in Westminster, resigned. In other words, sacked. Before her thoroughly well-deserved defenestration, Ms Ali was working on the Renters' Rights Bill. And naturally, when she was caught, she offered up the pathetic excuse made notorious during the MP's expenses scandal. I broke no laws or rules. Oh, well, that's all right then. Even by Westminster's low standards, an epic feat of low morality. 0344499 1000. Also tonight, Brendan O'Neill on the appalling state of the nation and the even worse state of the state broadcaster. How much longer must we be forced to pay for an appallingly biased news service, a swirling mass of sex and bullying scandals, and an abysmally managed organisation that seems to stagger from one disaster to the next? The BBC. Is it worth 170 quid a year? You tell me. 0344499 1000, all that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. It being Friday, of course, I'm joined by my Friday friend, political strategist Pete Barnes. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Kev. How's it going?
All right. Well, I got the wrong monologue
Yeah, that was
but
entertaining.
you know, I regrouped. Come on, folks, give me a break.
It's like you went to the pub without me this afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think I'd been to the pub, but I actually haven't. I will be going later. But anyway, well, let's get going. And we've got lots to talk about this hour. You know, in a little while, we'll talk about what's happening to Bournemouth. Terrible, terrible. Once a genteel, you know, classic British holiday resort, vacation resort with Britain's favourite beaches. It's now a hellhole. It's a hellhole. 3 of its main hotels have been turned into asylum seeker accommodation centre, and it's crime city. It's unbelievable how that once pretty town, seaside town, has declined. We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll also talk about the one-in, one-out scheme. I will stop at nothing to secure Britain's borders. Are you honestly? What planet is this guy on? You know, as I say, there's so much you could stop at. If you stopped giving them benefits, stopped putting them in 4-star hotels, and stopped mainly giving them free lawyers, then you'd stop the boats. If you stopped giving them all this stuff when they get here, that would stop the boats. So don't tell us you won't stop at nothing. There's so much you could stop at, but you don't even do that. You just come up with this performative headline hunting claptrap, the worst deal ever with Macron. And I keep saying it, Pete, I keep saying it. Didn't I bet you 50 quid last week that Britain will never get a single migrant to France under this dog's dinner of a deal. Before we get to that, though, Pete, let's talk about the crime wave, the migrant crime wave, the asylum crime wave. Now, we cited last night, you know, the most worrying aspect of this is the sex crime wave, and more sex allegations are arising concerning asylum seekers, people living at asylum seeker hotels and these houses of multiple occupation where they live. Now, we knew about the women. We knew that 16 years of migration horror, bad policies had made this pretty unsafe place for women. But we've discovered that there's quite a few cases as well of rape and sexual assault against children. So this is getting very, very frightening, isn't it? We talk often about these. This is the problem. I said this last night. We're always saying, me especially, the problem with over many years letting in thousands and thousands and thousands of young men of sexually active age about whom we know nothing is they come from cultures and countries with very different attitudes to women, and they get here. Many of them come from countries where you're just not allowed to see a woman's big toe. In Afghanistan, by the way, they've streamlined the burqa. There's the one-eyed one now.
Oh, good Lord.
So you can only, 2 eyes is seen as too sexually incendiary for a man.
Yeah,
so poor women go with one eye. But these are the kind of countries they come from. They come here, and of course women, quite rightly here, they dress exactly how they want to. Now that can be provocative to these guys, some of these guys, not all of them, let's be fair. That's a really, really toxic cocktail, and the sex crime tally is rising. Alex Phillips on her show today, she talked about Bournemouth, and she's done some research. And apparently, since these asylum seeker hotels were set up, they became, the former nice hotels. They're called the Roundhouse, the Chine, and the Britannia. Altogether, you probably get about, I'm trying to think, 100 each. And you probably get about, you're talking about probably 300, 400, 500 people. Yeah. Mostly young men. The beach is like a no-go area now. And anyway, Alex established that since these hotels have become migrant centres, migrant accommodation centres, the number of rapes and sexual assaults in Bournemouth has spiralled.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but now the other aspect we have to talk about is the alarming number of these sex crimes allegedly committed by migrants and asylum seekers are against children.
Yeah. I've heard them called houses of multiple horrors.
Yeah.
And, for the stories that are coming out. But this is the one thing, is this migrant crisis just seems to kind of unfold so many layers of horrors. The reason that we don't see women and children on the boats is because they are picked off by the gangs and sold into sexual exploitation. That is why they're not on the boats. It is not safe for them to travel anywhere near like the men do here. And it is a very deeply concerning thing, because yet again, authorities were there supposed to protect kids, because this is happening in the UK, and they're just, these kids are just being left, and they're abandoned, and they are just prime targets for these animals that we just keep letting in. And I'm sorry, at what point do we just say enough? Yeah. Because, like you said, the numbers at Bournemouth are astronomical. The jump is just crazy when you look at some of the figures that are coming out of there. But just the moral aspect of this now, I don't know how anybody in government can look at this and say we're protecting people.
Well, here's the point, isn't it? So we're talking about 16 years of disastrous migration policies, immigration policies by, of course, Tory governments mainly. They shoulder most of the blame here, but fair play to Labour, no mean feat. Yeah. But in 1 year they've made this situation even worse. It's a disaster, catastrophe now. And then what I was saying is, while we often say, well, these men come from cultures with very different attitudes to women, they also, as is becoming depressingly clear, worryingly clear, they come from countries and cultures with very different attitudes to children as well. So an alarming percentage of these alleged sex crimes. Got to be careful here because of the way our justice system works. The wheels of justice in this country aren't just slow, they're glacial. They take ages and ages. So the asylum seekers around the country, most of the cases we're talking about, they're charged with rape or sexual assault. against women and or children. We have to stress that very few convictions yet because their trials haven't happened yet. But a trial, for example, this week did begin, just by way of example, folks, in the Inner London Crown Court. And this was of a Pakistani asylum seeker who was living in a house of multiple occupation in Streatham in South London, 43 years old. He is charged, he's on trial now. He denies this, very important to stress that again, but he's on trial, charged, accused of the repeated rape of an 8-year-old girl. We know about last week's case that was revealed by the Sunday papers up in Nuneaton. Warwickshire Police not telling the local residents, the local communities, that the two men arrested for being involved in the vicious rape of a 12-year-old girl. Warwickshire Police not telling the people that they were asylum seekers, Afghani asylum seekers. And this is a picture that is unfolding all across the country. So what we have to worry about here, folks, is, yes, women, of course, women, girls, but also children. Plus the fact, the Telegraph revealed a couple of days ago, was it yesterday, that there's a huge number of general crimes, serious crimes, violent crimes. So hundreds and hundreds of these crimes are waiting to be heard in court. But absolutely alarming picture is emerging, isn't it?
Yes, but this is the thing in the UK. We have a serious problem of child protection. You know, the National Crime Agency saw over 500,000 cases flagged of sexual exploitation of children. You know, this is a systemic problem that we aren't doing anything near enough to tackle. But the prime example when we look at this from the migrant perspective is the gentleman from Yemen. You know, he had thousands of images that he was found to have back in 2024. He was neither deported nor jailed because it wasn't safe for him to return to his home country.
Yeah,
the law is protecting these people.
Yeah, but it's that case is unbelievable. This guy turns up at the airport on I think it was a student visa.
Yeah, it was.
And he immediately claimed asylum. This happens a lot, you know, because they basically say, I've got out of my war-torn country on this student visa, but I now claim asylum to live here permanently. So he arrived at Heathrow Airport, so the immigration officials sort of detained him to interview, and they went through his belongings, and they found these disgusting paedophile images, child sex abuse images, and they were really, really hardcore, apparently. And after some time, he was allowed into the country, and his asylum seeker application is being processed as we speak, and somehow or other, he seems to be working in a restaurant in Plymouth. So he arrives from the Yemen, laden with disgusting child sex images, says, I want to apply for asylum, and we let him in and we allow him to apply. It's ridiculous. And his claim was, if you send me back to the Yemen, the Houthi rebels will make me fight for them. Oh, well, yeah, I don't. Yeah, let's see if I could give a damn. Oh, wait a minute, I couldn't. I mean, come on, just go back. Who gives a damn if you have to fight for the Houthi rebels? Yeah. What's that got to do with us?
Again, and this is the point.
You're a pedo. Go home.
Yeah, it's the judiciary is an activist force now, and they are keeping these people here. They are actively making the UK a less safe place to walk the streets and be and just live here.
Yeah.
You know, because this is the thing. It's not even happening just at night. It is happening in broad daylight. Everywhere, up and down the country. It's not just in local areas or anything. It is all over the nation, and we have to get to grips with the courts. We've got to, because without changing that, nothing will ever change. This crisis will continue because the courts will allow it to continue.
Well, this was really the week when the shocking truth came spilling out. Number of really striking reports in the papers, The Sun and the Telegraph, both revealing the true extent of how many asylum seekers are charged with serious crimes. As I say, they're not all sex crimes, you know, many violent crimes, serious crimes, very serious crimes, hundreds of them, but an alarming percentage of those are sex crimes, rapes, sexual assaults on women, and we now know children as well. So, my God, something's got to be done. But look, the word is out, and the public have had enough. Keir Starmer's going to find out this weekend. I don't take any relish in this, but the weather's hot. There are demonstrations planned tonight. I think there's one in Epping again tonight, but all over the country. And tomorrow and Sunday. It's going to be a weekend of serious protest around the country. Let's hope it stays peaceful. Let's face it, let's be fair, for 3 weeks now we've had pretty solid protests. Yes. They've all been peaceful. You know, a bit of friction, but basically peaceful. With this weather and with a rising mood of fury across the nation. For a recent poll this week, 45% of Brits said that they want the boats stopped, and they want the asylum seekers and the migrants who have broken into this country and are living at these hotels at our expense, they want them thrown out. Yeah. They want them 45%. Now, if you'd have had that poll 2 years ago, it would have been considerably lower. If you'd had it 10 years ago, you'd be lucky if that was 10%. Yeah. And what it is, folks, it's this. You know, the Sun, the Telegraph, even us in our small way, we are beginning to reveal to the public. We're finding out ourselves, and we are revealing to the public, an appalled public, that they have been kept in the dark about the truth about what happens when we let thousands of migrants into the country, no questions asked. What obviously happens is a lot of them commit crime. And we haven't been told this. In fact, the official system is when anyone is arrested and charged with a sex crime or a serious crime, we're not allowed to know that they're asylum seekers. Both Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, and the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, this week said, oh yeah, the public do have a right to know this. Damn right we have a right to know. But they said, oh, but the thing is, before we change the rules on this, we have to have take independent advice. That could take weeks.
They already had it. It's called the Cass Review.
Well, it's not that. Yeah. This is the stroke of a pen.
It really is.
This is the stroke of a pen. Warwickshire Police with Nuneaton, with the alleged, or the two guys involved in the alleged rape of a 12-year-old, they said, well, we didn't tell anybody they were asylum seekers because that's national policy, and they're right. Now, all that has to happen is Keir Starmer, or Yvette Cooper said, right from now on, you do tell the local communities, you do tell British citizens when a sex crime or any major crime is committed by an asylum seeker. Wouldn't affect the trial, but the fact that the public have found out that this secret has been kept from them. The reason that they don't trust us with this information, they think, well, we'll all have a riot. Well, they've kept it secret for so long. The public have found out that they've been hoodwinked about migrant crime, asylum seeker crime, and they are furious. As I said, I don't take any relish in this, but there could be trouble this weekend, folks. So we'll let you know about a few of the demonstrations and the protests after this break, so stick around.
Absolutely shocking. They're not interested in representing the people that have elected them. They're letting everybody down on so many issues. Rushnara had spoken out against private renters being exploited and said that the government would empower people to challenge unreasonable rent increases. Yeah, they're now claiming that she hasn't broken any rules, any laws yet, but obviously we know what the government is trying to do on renters' reforms and so on and so forth. It just seems to me to be yet another example of do as I say, not do as I do. It's champagne socialism, champagne for me, socialism for everyone else. That seems to be what guides them. As I say, government of self-service.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, welcome back. There are tonight 17 protests planned around the country, from Aldershot to Birmingham, Epping again tonight outside the Bell Hotel, of course, Leeds, Norwich, Southampton, Wolverhampton. Now there are 2, and then tomorrow night there are 6 planned at the moment. Now there is 1 planned tonight at the Britannia Hotel in Bournemouth, and another one tomorrow night planned outside the Roundhouse Hotel in Bournemouth. And last weekend, if I remember rightly, there was a protest in Bournemouth outside the Chine Hotel. So those are the 3 hotels in Bournemouth that have turned that once genteel British resort, where Britain's favourite sandy beaches are, into a sinister seaside citadel of fear. It really has become this. As I was saying earlier, Pete, Alex Phillips on her show today, she did some research and established that since these hotels have changed into asylum seeker accommodation centre, there's a marked increase in the number of rapes and sexual assaults. And she was saying that they're coming in at the rate of about I should say alleged. You know, these are, as I say, if there's a rape, somebody gets charged, accused and charged, you know, you can't say they did it. You have to wait for the court case, because it could be wrong. It could be that they didn't do it. The court case, they'll be lucky if that comes along in, what, a year, 2 years?
At least.
And then, so, you know, a lot of these people currently charged, these asylum seekers charged with sex crimes or serious crimes, you know, they may not be in court for a year and a half, 2 years. But anyway, Alex established that since these hotels, these 3 hotels, the Britannia, the Chine and the Roundhouse, became asylum seeker centres, accommodation centres, there's been a marked rise in rapes and sexual assaults to the tune that there's pretty much 1 every day now.
Whoa, that's incredible. But I bet you any money there should be some research done I bet this is replicated wherever one of these hotels is. And I mean, this is starting to become undeniable. But the interesting thing about Bournemouth is also the kind of the double whammy that it's got. So obviously you have the sexual crime aspect, but then you have the economic impact that these places have. So the area that all along that coast, it's about 1.3 billion is raised in tourism. Nobody is going anymore. They have decimated the tourism industry. 37% drop in bookings. You know, average 25% drop in turnover. This has a huge, long-lasting effect in these communities beyond the crime aspect, and they stresses on public services. You know, this is the migrant crisis. Isn't just the boats. It is so much more, and the government just doesn't care. They are dropping these people in these towns, and to hell with it. And it is killing these communities, like left, right, and centre. And because the people there are being ignored, or they're being labelled racist and boxed off and ignored. It is wrong. It is just wrong.
Of course it is. But we'll talk about this after the break. But we have a government who still sees this crisis. I mean, what we're talking about, this is really dangerous. You know, this country is becoming a country that is dangerous for women and girls to walk the streets, and now we find out children as well. Now, what is our government's response? They still think that this is an issue that they can deal with performative headline hunting, gimmicks, press conferences, crackdowns, smash the gangs, all this kind of nonsense. Honestly, you know, this is what these protests are about. This is a nation, you know, crying out for its government to do something to make this country safe again, like it used to be. Bournemouth. When did Bournemouth become a dangerous place for women and children? For God's sake, Bournemouth was the very epitome of seaside genteel, you know, effeteness, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and now apparently now people don't go out at night. It is just a mass of young foreign men, you know, shuffling around up to no good. All the shops are boarded up, as you say. The £1.3 billion tourist industry is in the toilet. Businessmen are horrified by the decline of their fortunes. Honestly, what is this government? They're just letting this country go to rack and ruin due to this asylum seeker, small boat crisis, migrant crisis, and they're not doing anything about it. As I said in my monologue, you know, Starmer said, I'll stop at nothing to secure our borders. There's so many things that he could do right now that would stop the boats. Don't give them any more legal aid. Don't give them any more benefits. Don't put them in 4-star hotels. Don't give them free food. Don't give them free healthcare. Don't give them free dentists. Don't give them free driving lessons, and so much more. You know, don't tell us you stop at nothing when you could stop all of that list, and that would stop the small boats, wouldn't it? That would stop the boats. Everybody knows that. You could do it, Keir. You just, I don't know what it is, but you either haven't got the resolve or the intelligence or the intention. Could be that you rather like the migrant crisis, you know. We'll talk about the 17 in, 1 out swap a foreigner fiasco. Honestly, what a joke. We'll talk about that after this break. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now let's talk about the 1 in. Well, this is what Starmer calls it: 1 in, 1 out. It's actually 17 in, 1 out. This is his great panacea. This is going to solve the crisis. This is the deterrent we've all been waiting for. You've heard about it all week. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary today, accused the Prime Minister of gaslighting the nation by making grossly, this is Chris Phillips's quote, but I agree with him, grossly exaggerated claims about this scheme. So we're watching now, if you're watching on the telly, we're watching the first migrants who were detained under the 1 in, 1 out scheme, the so-called 1 in, 1 out scheme, swap a migrant scheme with Macron in France. Right, so the deal is this, just in case you haven't heard it yet. For out of every 17 migrants that arrive here, we will, in theory, pick one and send them back to France, and we'll swap him, because it'll almost certainly be a him, with some a legitimate migrant who has a case to come to Britain, like they got family, in France, I mean, to come over here. You know, good luck with that. So the first thing that's going to happen here, by the way, so this is a deterrent. Do you know what? This I'll stop at nothing. Yeah. This gives every migrant a 94% chance of getting away with it. Yeah. He said, what he says is, the message loud and clear: if you break the law, you may face being returned to France. May being the operative word. So what he's saying is, if you break the law, most of you won't in any way be punished. You'll get away with it and you can stay.
Yeah.
How about this? If you break the law, all of you can't stay. In other words, what this actually constitutes is that 1 in 17, a 94% chance. The rest, will just be allowed to stay. He's the unlucky 6%er, as it were. He goes back. But as soon as his immigration lawyer gets his hands on this, or her hands on this, they're going to go straight to court and go, well, on what basis was my client chosen? It's eeny, meeny, miny. It was random. Yeah. Any judge is going to go, well, that's not fair, so you can't send him back. Pete, on the off chance that the judge says, actually, I agree, no, you've got to send him back, then the lawyer will cite his client's human rights. Yeah. And there will be a human rights case lodged, and under the terms of this deal, that migrant cannot be sent back to France until his human rights case has been fully processed in the courts. That will take years.
Yeah, and that is the fundamental bit of this entire farce that just means it's pointless. It is a waste of time, effort and money, and yet again, as you said, this is theatre over substance, because it does not tackle the legal problem and the legal framework that is keeping people here. It's Article 8.3 is the ones they cite, and with the ones who have just been detained within, I think it was 36 hours, the human rights had already been claimed at I think a court.
Really?
Because this is the thing.
I didn't know that.
There is a
and we're off.
Yeah, no, that's literally what it is. Because there is an orchestrated movement, because people are making so much money out of this, to actually keep this kind of system in place, because I'm going to milk it for everything that it is worth. This is actually going to cost the taxpayer an extortionate amount of money, because we're going to have the kind of the farce of going through all the process, and then we have the trials and all the rest of it. It is just ridiculous. But the terms of this deal are things that really strike me. Macron basically had Starmer over a barrel. We've got so we have 3 days to make a decision. They get 28 days to say, well, whether they want them or not, and then they have grounds to say no, whether they take them. We don't have any of those rights at all. It is absolutely ridiculous, because I think Macron and the French knew that Starmer politically was in so much trouble here. He would sign anything to say he'd done anything.
Yeah, and the migrant that we send back to France, in theory, we won't know anything about them. So we're going to go to France. You've got this really legitimate stand-up guy or stand-up woman, who's got family here in Canterbury or London or whatever. We'll take them. And France are going to. So who have you got for us? Oh, I don't know. It's this sort of Somalian. We don't really know anything about him. He's probably got a sex crime record back in his home country. Then France are going to go. So no, we're not having them. Yeah. So that it's not going to work on that basis. As I say, it's not outlandish, is it, Pete, for me to say 50 quid says we never get a single migrant back to France?
I would be genuinely surprised if you even get 1 foot on a boat to send them back. I would genuinely be surprised.
So you share my feeling.
I was sceptical of it at the beginning, but then as this unfolded, it just turned into again infuriation, because again the central bit of this is Starmer's lack of intention and political will to basically end all of this, because he could shut down the legal framework tomorrow. He could shut it and fix this literally if he wanted to tomorrow.
Do you know what?
He's choosing not to at this point.
I know. I just wish that I could have, or we could have, a 5-minute break from Ofcom's rules, the broadcasting rules, so we could say what we really think about Keir Starmer, but we will in the pub afterwards. Chris Phelps was right. He's gaslighting us. He's lying to us. Did you see? This is what he said about this dog's dinner of a disastrous deal. This is what he said. No gimmicks, just results. What? What results? What results? And by the way, quick question to you. Any idea whatever happened to Smash the Gang?
Well, they got somebody called Mr. Big, and he was basically just a guy selling dinghies on the beach. That's it.
That's not a gang.
No. Well, but the thing is, I don't think they could tell you what the gang is.
Yeah,
they don't know anything, do they?
I think Keir Starmer thinks it's sort of mafia guys
Yeah.
with sort of fedoras and machine guns under their arms and big coats.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the Godfather movie. It's really not. Again, all that money, all the gear, no idea seems to be the central rule of that lot.
No idea, Keir.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous because I don't understand that they can't be this stupid. I refuse to believe they're this stupid. It is now clear to me that they just don't care about stopping this.
Well, listen, folks, let me know what you think about this one in, one out. Let me know what you think about Bournemouth, because all these things are linked.
Yeah.
These are linked. You know, as we were saying earlier in the show, we've got a rising problem with asylum seekers being charged with very serious crimes, many of them sex crimes against women, sex crimes against children, all over the country, violent crimes, drug dealing crimes. We've got a rising problem there. We've got more and more and more migrants coming across the channel. I'm not sure what today's tally was, but the 2 days before that, I think we had 150 on Wednesday, on Tuesday, and 250. Yeah, let me think. Yeah, 250 was the figure we got yesterday. So you had 400, probably had about 500-600 so far this week. It could be more, who knows. On a day like this, it could be a big tally today. So just to get back to those numbers, there are other things to say about one in, one out, as I think you and I have discussed this before, Pete. What is the essential nature of the migrant crisis? It's numerical. Yeah. We have too many foreigners coming into an already overcrowded country. So in what way, numerically, do we solve a damn thing by swapping one-on-one? Yeah, and numerically, that doesn't solve anything, does it?
Yeah, it works out, if they actually did this for a year, it's 0.6%. Yeah. That's the impact that it would have, is 0.6%.
And the numbers, so Calamity Cooper the other day, the Home Secretary, I'm not putting numbers on it because that would be operational information that could be useful for the people. No, it wouldn't. No, Why? Why? That's not useful. But she wouldn't give us a number because she doesn't know. But she did say it would start small and build. Well, what we have heard, I think the Home Office has let it be known, under the counter, as it were, that they're looking to send back 50 a week. Meanwhile, an average of 800 a week come the other way. So we've got 800 a week on average. The other week, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was near enough 2,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So on a bad week, it can be 2,000. But an average of 800 a week coming across the channel and breaking into the country illegally. And we're fixing to send back 50. 94% chance of getting away with it we are offering these migrants. So that is not a deterrent, is it?
No, it's not. I find it funny when Cooper comes out and says, the gangs might use it. The gangs are probably better informed than she is in terms of them understanding the numbers and the flow and all the rest of it. They're running the show on this. But again, like you said, it is the pull factors. Everybody in the international community has screamed at the British government saying, you're encouraging this by your actions. And they just don't get it. And I get it's not in the Labour Party DNA and all the rest of it, but at some point you have to start saying, well, kids are at threat here because of this. At what point do you start to say, I've got to do something? Yeah. You're all talking about what Keir Starmer could do. For me, the one thing he can do is resign. Because it's ridiculous.
In your dreams,
God.
if
I
only.
know, if only.
Don't get me excited. Don't get me excited. I want to send a message out to all of you who are planning to join any of these many protests, 17 tonight across the country. Do try and keep them peaceful. Because if they kick off, if they get violent like they did last summer, Starmer will start arresting you all and chucking you in prison. I mean, not personally, but you know what will happen. Then they'll be able to say, far-right thugs, violent, this isn't proper process, all this kind of stuff, demonising people who have very real concerns about what the hell is going on in this country. Honestly, mate, we have reached a serious boiling point here.
Yeah, and I think it's because we've got this data. The argument has been reframed now about public safety, and we've got the data and the evidence to say that this is now a threat. Yeah. This is why the government has panicked so much, because they can't just call you a racist anymore. There's now evidence to say that the government's actions are putting you under threat. That's why the government is panicking, and this overreaction reaction every time. It's because all the old tactics won't work anymore.
Exactly right. The terror or the horror and the fury that we are seeing erupting all over the country, we're all seeing on all these protests, and we have been seeing in these protests, is of course due to the facts of the matter, that we all know more and more sex crimes, more and more crimes are being allegedly committed by asylum seekers. But worse than that, it is a nation, it is the population of this country finding out that for, 15 years now, 15, 16 years, we've been lied to. They've kept this stuff a secret from us. And because they don't trust us, they always feared that if we knew the truth about the migrant crisis, that it's more than just numbers, it's more than just stretching our infrastructure, it's more than just overcrowding an already overcrowded country. It's this crime aspect. It's the danger aspect. And that aspect, the authorities, the government, the police have been keeping under wraps. It is still actually official police policy that they do not tell us when those accused of serious crime, rape, sexual assault, violent assault, it's an official policy that when asylum seekers are accused of those offences, we are not told they are asylum seekers. And you know why that is. But we're finding out now. We've found out. And that's why there are all these protests. And trust me, folks, revolution is in the air. It really is. And this government just doesn't seem to get it. When we come back, speaking of this government, we're going to talk about a particularly egregious member of it, someone called Rameshwara Ali. She was until yesterday, until last night, the homelessness minister. And she contributed to London's homelessness problem in a very personal way, on a personal level, by evicting 4 of her tenants and making them homeless. Why did she do this? Because she wanted to get £4,000 a month and was £700 short of that. So under the law now, which she has been trying to change, it's called the Renters' Rights Bill. She's been trying to bring in the Renters' Rights Bill to change the law. Under the law now, there's this loophole where if you are a landlord, landlady, whatever, and you own a house and you've got, say, 4 tenants like Ms. Ali, you can't just evict them and say, oh, I want to get some tenants to pay. So what you have to do, and this is what she did, she said, oh, really sorry, I'm going to have to boot you out. I'm going to have to evict you because I'm putting the house on the market. I'm going to sell it. That allowed her to do that. And what they all do, landlords, is as soon as the tenants are evicted, they are then, under the current useless law, they're able to say, oh, I've changed my mind. I think I'll rent it again. So she did just that. Oh, sorry, you got to go. I'm going to sell the house. And then as soon as she kicked him out, she didn't sell the house. She advertised, she put it back up for rent, £700 more. So she get her £4,000. All I would say, Muzali, Rameshwara, I hope that £700 was worth it, because you have ruined your career and you are an ambitious little thing, aren't you? Well, forget about that from now on. I'd stick to your property portfolio if I were you. We'll talk about her next. Stay tuned.
absolutely shocking. They're not interested in representing the people that have elected them. They're letting everybody down on so many issues. Rushanara had spoken out against private renters being exploited and said that the government would empower people to challenge unreasonable rent increases. Yeah, they're now claiming that she hasn't broken any rules, any laws yet, but obviously we know what the government is trying to do on renters reforms and so on and so forth. It just seems to me to be yet another example of do as I say, not do as I do. It's champagne socialism, champagne for me, socialism for everyone else. That seems to be what guides them. As I say, government of self-service.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We'll talk about the former homelessness minister in just a second, Miss Rameshwara Ali. Her career in tatters serves her right. Just quickly though, funny story. A story of our times, this one, Pete. Peter Cardwell covered this and actually spoke to the shopkeeper on the phone, a guy called Rob Davis in Wrexham, North Wales. He runs a retro shop there and he's had a serious, like so many poor shopkeepers, had a serious shoplifting crisis. He put a sign in his window, due to scumbag shoplifting, please ask for assistance to open cabinets. Thank you. In other words, like so many shopkeepers had to lock everything up. Due to scumbag shoplifting, please ask for assistance to open cabinets. Thank you. 3 coppers came round to his house and said, could you remove that sign? It's causing offence.
If anybody needs me, I'll be at Heathrow.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, 3 coppers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you when poor old Ray gets shoplifted, when he gets all his stuff half-inched, no, you won't get 3 coppers round there then, will you? What is wrong with this damn country? I'll tell you what's wrong with this damn country. This government and the people in it. Of course, Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper, all that lot. David Lammy fishing at the moment with J.D. Vance. What's that all about?
Vance.
Yeah, poor J.D. Vance. We're going to talk about Rushanara Ali. She is the homelessness, or she was the homelessness minister, as I said before the break. She kicked her 4 tenants out of her East London house and basically played the law. Said I was going to sell the house, and then as soon as they were out, she put it up for rent again, so she get an extra 700 quid. She got found out, the iPaper, to its credit, splashed on it, put it on the front page a couple of nights ago. I read it out, got about 10 million looks on Twitter. She's written this letter to Keir Starmer, I've become a distraction. But of course, basically, she was sacked.
Yeah.
She was told to resign because it's absolutely untenable that she carries on. But what I hated about her letter and her stance and her excuse, it takes us all back to the expenses scandal, the MP's expenses scandal, 2009, wasn't it? When they all said, yes, I flip-flopped my house and I did, I claimed for a duck house and all this kind of stuff. And then they all went, but I broke, everything I did was within the rules. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're not an immoral scumbag, does it? And she, of course, says, I didn't break any rules or laws. Please, that is pathetic. It insults our intelligence. You know what you did. You might not have broken the law, but as the homelessness minister, what you did was hypocrisy on an epic scale. She was championing, trying to get this bill through called the Renters' Rights Bill, which was to plug this loophole.
Yeah.
So she knew all about it and then she used it. Epic hypocrisy and actual actually, grand scale, Olympic standard stupidity.
Oh, well,
she's an
yeah.
idiot. She's
Yes.
an idiot. She's known to be very ambitious. Well, you better get a different career now, Muzali, because you've ruined yours.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, sometimes the universe does align perfectly that the homelessness minister made people homeless. I thought that was brilliant. But the interesting thing is, if you look to the hypocrisy aspect of why the public are going to be interested in this, is, there's about 13% of all MPs are landlords. And the vast majority of those are Labour MPs. So they have a lot of vested interest in these kind of situations. And when there seems to be...
I hear Keir Starmer, 2 houses?
Yeah.
Currently being rented out.
Emily Thornberry has a multi-million-pound property portfolio. She's very well known in the property industry. But it is interesting, the
Titans of the left,
yes,
aren't they?
yeah, what was it, in Animal Farm? Some of us are more equal than others.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the point. It is stark hypocrisy. I go back to the Lord Ali situation, where they said, we didn't break any of the rules. You are missing the point. This was also the 6th resignation of a minister this month.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah.
Who else?
But this is the thing. Because they're all relatively unknown, they could just resign. And, it's just... Yeah, but this
we'll try and get that list together.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Like you said, because she was resigned, she did not write her resignation letter.
But can I send out... I'm sending out a lot of messages tonight to the people, to the Prime Minister. This is to MPs generally. Please, 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 when you get caught with things like this, when you get caught fiddling your expenses or whatever, don't insult our intelligence by saying, I broke no rules, everything I did was within the law. It insults our intelligence, and makes a fool of you. They think that this exonerates them.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before. The Labour Party MPs always believe that they are viewed better. They always have this moral superiority complex that, I get to do this because I'm a Labour MP. I care about all this kind of stuff. Again, it's the halo polishing. And, it follows my strong will that anybody who is really in favour of, defending something, they're usually a wrong 'un for it.
Yeah.
It just is a general rule. But, again, it's interesting that, they're starting to see so many sleaze scandals coming out of this government, and we're just over a year in. This is normally 10 years in of a weak Tory government at this point.
It's what's interesting in politics. They always say with Tories the scandals are always sex, and with Labour the scandals are always money.
Yes, always.
So this conforms to that. But I did hear that apparently Starmer, to his credit, acting like a human being for once, apparently absolutely hit the roof.
Yeah.
Hit the roof.
I'm not surprised because, like I said, this now undermines the moral credibility of the Renters' Rights Bill, which the Labour Party were going to campaign on. It was going to be one of their big flagship
and it sounds like a good bill.
Well, some of it is. Most of it is actually going to decimate the renters industry because most landlords will sell.
Maybe it's not a good
bill. In the long run, it's not. But in terms of fixing these things to go after dodgy landlords, it's actually quite good. But
what I don't like...
It's too big of a bill.
The bill, if the bill plugs this loophole, then it's good. Because, I'm all...
It's happened to me. This situation has happened to me.
Well, I'm all for landlords' rights, and it can be very skewed against them. But I don't think landlords should be able to pretend they're going to sell their house, and the moment they kick the tenants out, evict them, and then they go, "Oh, I changed my mind."
Yeah, no, literally, this has happened to me about 3 years ago.
Yeah,
they came to us and said, "Oh, sorry, we want to sell the house." It's still there, and there's still people living in it.
Right. Well, so they.
Yeah. And it's still it's still on
Wasn't owned by Russianara, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, but it's such common practice, particularly here in London. But they are right to go after this, but this the stark hypocrisy is. It's the arrogance to think, I get to do this.
It's not very Laboury, is it, to be a landlord, is it?
But like I said, it's
Rackman.
44 of them. It's it's the bigger number. Only 28 Tories and 8 Lib Dems are landlords. But that's only if they claim over £10,000 in rental declarations. They could claim less than that and still be classed as a landlord, I guess. But I think 93 is the rough figure.
And there's another aspect to this. She knew what she was doing.
Oh yeah.
But so there's hypocrisy here. There's incredible stupidity, idiocy. but also Olympic-class arrogance.
Yes.
She thought she could get away with this.
Well, yeah, but that's at the heart of this government. You know, the arrogance of the left. The kind of, we'll look after you. We'll do everything for you. You need us. You know, that is really the bigotry of low expectations is the most prevalent form of bigotry in this country, and it comes from the heart of the Labour Party.
Yeah, exactly. We got a few. Let me, just to read at least one. Oh, it's one about. This is from Steve in East Yorkshire. Lammy and JD Vance fishing in the pond at Chevening, Lammy's residence. Lammy wearing a life jacket, hoping to catch some sea bass or mackerel in the fresh water. That was a very unlikely picture. Apparently they do get on very well, but they're certainly from the opposite ends of the political scale. But JD Vance, of course, up to the Cotswolds near Ellen DeGeneres. So he'll have a lovely couple of weeks up there in that lovely area of Britain. He's a big Anglophile. Yeah. I mean, these American politicians, they love Britain. That's why they're worried that we're losing our free speech and freedom of expression, because Keir's taking it away from them. Brendan O'Neill next. Stay tuned.
Animals. When I was about
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to be joined by a spiked political writer, a spiked online Brendan O'Neill, brilliant political commentator, social commentator, of course, will put the world to rights. We'll talk about the state of the nation for the next half an hour or so, and also the state of the state broadcaster. The BBC strikes me as it's falling apart at the seams. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace, a shambles. 170 quid a year? You've got to be joking. It's unbelievable. This TV licence, it's an anachronism. It's an anachronism, and it's got to stop. We'll talk to Brendan about that in just a little while. And by the way, will you listen to the news then? You know, how come they use Pete Barnes? I'm the presenter. Why didn't they use me? Is it because I just sort of talk garbled rubbish?
It's twice now.
Yeah. Oh, twice, is it? Yeah. They never use me. I mean, God. But yes, we're going to go through some of the problems with the BBC, which are just ludicrous.
Such a microcosm for everything wrong in this country.
Well, here's the point. right, we'll talk to Brendan about this, but there's a rising tide of Jew hatred, anti-Semitism in this country, and it's certainly logical, in my view, to point the finger at the BBC as the epicenter, the driving force of this. Their newsroom is the biased reporting of the Gaza conflict has been a national scandal, a disgrace. We know about that documentary. If you doubt it, remember what happened. Gaza, surviving a war zone, narrated by a really nice kid, about 13, 14 years old, walking through the rubble and the beaches and telling the story of that benighted strip of land. What they didn't mention was that his dad was the Hamas deputy agriculture minister. They didn't tell us that. So, that was a bit of a mistake, to say the least, and also a window into the BBC's anti-Israel soul. We'll talk about that in just a little while, but in the meantime, we've got hold of him now, so warm welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill. Hi, Brendan.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
OK, good to see you. Well, look, first of all, let's talk about, if you don't mind, the asylum seeker hotel crisis, the migrant crisis, because as we speak, something like 17 serious protests are planned all across the country outside asylum seeker hotels. Pete Barnes and I have been discussing this. This, of course, is a reaction by the people to the sheer facts of the asylum seeker crisis. More and more foreigners being foisted onto unsuspected communities. They didn't ask for this. More and more people coming into this overcrowded land. People coming across the channel and being allowed in and being, absolutely treated like kings, given free hotels, free food, free everything. People are fed up with that. But the worst thing is, the reason I think that this weekend we'll see a crescendo of protests is this. What the people have found out, especially this week, is that we've been lied to. That they have been trying to keep secret the fact that more and more of these asylum seekers are being charged with serious crimes, serious violent crimes, but worse of all, serious sex crimes, rape and sexual assault. And we established yesterday that not only are these sex crimes being committed against women, of course, there's quite a significant proportion of them are sex crimes against children. And the point is, the authorities, it's still the official policy that the police do not reveal when these awful sex crimes, serious crimes, are committed. The official policy is they don't tell us they're asylum seekers. Both Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper have said, oh, well, the people do have a right to know that, and we must get that one going. And then we learn that the Cabinet has announced, well, yes, we very much, people should have been told this, transparency. But, of course, we've got to take independent advice. It could be weeks, it could be months. They're still dragging their heels on this, but the fury we're going to see this weekend and have seen for the past 3 weeks is, of course, because of the bare fact of the migrant crisis, but also because we've been lied to. We've been kept in the dark. They've kept secrets about the nature of the crimes that these asylum seekers are committing and the fact that they were committed by asylum seekers, and people have had enough.
Absolutely, they've had enough. Kevin, it is the definition of tyranny to impose something on a people that they don't want and then to lie to them about it. I mean, that is what happens in Stalinist regimes in the 1970s and the 1980s. That's what happens in China. The government forces something on you against your will that you're not very happy with, and then it uses misinformation to try to win you around. It uses lies and untruths to try and blind you to what's really going on. That is what this Labour government is currently doing. This is Stasi-like behaviour by this Labour government, by Keir Starmer's government. It's really deeply disturbing and shocking. And, these protests, some people in the media, and I'm sure in Labour as well, they look upon these hotel protests as just far-right uprisings, fascist uprisings by xenophobic, stupid, gammon people. That's not what they are at all. What we have here are uprisings by mostly decent people, often families, often mothers are leading these protests, who are simply saying, we don't know where these men are coming from. We don't know what their belief system is. We don't know what kind of regressive culture they've come from, and we don't know how women and children are treated in those cultures, although we can guess. And we don't want 500 of them to be shipped into our neighborhood overnight in the middle of the night without our say-so, because we recognize that it's a threat to our women, it's a threat to our children, it's a threat to our communities. These are perfectly reasonable demands. The fact that the government won't listen to them is a testament to how completely out of touch it is with reality.
Absolutely, and we are only now beginning as a nation to find out the truth of the results of mass immigration over actually about 60 years, but for the sake of argument, since the Tories started their regime about 16 years ago, and the Labour government for the past year has made it even worse. You know, we are now learning that foreign nationals living in the UK are 70% more likely to be convicted of sexual crimes. Algerians are 18 times more likely to be convicted of theft. The proportion of under 18 prison population, which is black heritage, is 30% compared to 5% of the other under 18s in the general population, and so on and so forth. The authorities, the Home Office, have systematically kept us from knowing this stuff, and it is only because more and more people are saying we need the truth on this, and to be fair, more and more politicians are saying the people have got a point, that they're starting to tell us this, and the results I hope won't be violent, but they're going to be very febrile.
You know, it's sometimes you think about this crisis and you think, am I going mad, or is this really happening? Is the government really shipping people into this country? From Afghanistan, they ship tens of thousands of people. The rest of the people who come across our borders illegally, we don't know who they are, and the government basically just lets them in. Are we really letting these people in, giving them bed and board, putting them up in 4-star hotels in some cases, and knowing full well that they are committing sexual crimes, crimes of burglary, crimes of robbery? We have a situation, Kevin, which I think is unprecedented in the entire history of this country, which is that the government is bringing in and giving bed and board to people who it knows are committing criminal offences against the native population. That's how insane this situation is. That is completely unheard of, I would say, in the whole history of humankind. What kind of government would do such a thing? And yet our government is doing that to us. You know, the story of the past 20 or 30 years is basically the sacrifice of working class safety at the altar of political virtue. We saw it with the grooming gang scandal, or the rape gang scandal, to give it its proper name, where the safety of working class white girls was sacrificed at the altar of multiculturalism and political correctness. They didn't want to rock the boat, so they let those girls be abused and raped. And now we're seeing the safety of communities, and once again, women and girls, being sacrificed at the altar of the ideology of open borders, because this government wants to seem virtuous to its friends in the European Union. It wants to seem virtuous to its friends at Davos and say, look, we have open borders, we let people in, and it doesn't care what the consequences are for ordinary people in Britain. So that sacrifice of British people's safety at the altar of that kind of political posturing, that's the real scandal of our time.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, Brendan. What we're seeing outside these hotels in places like Epping is going to have another demonstration tonight. Much as I think Keir Starmer and the police don't like it, these protests are mostly by decent local people worried about their wives, worried about their daughters, worried about their damn children. Yes, there are a few agents provocateurs in there trying to cause trouble, but mostly they have been peaceful so far. But what are these? Who are these people who are staging these protests? I mean, the decent protesters. I tell you what most of them are, Brendan. They're working class.
Yep.
And the working classes have been ignored by successive governments, and they are sick of it. And that's what's happening this weekend. This is the working class saying, will you damn well listen to us? Why don't you listen to us? And I hope the government does. But what are we seeing? What have we seen this week? What is Keir Starmer's reaction to this rising tide of discontent, fierce discontent it is to sort of say, oh, I've got a one in, one out scheme? He is still treating the migrant crisis, the asylum crisis, as if it's something that can be dealt with by performative headline hunting. It's much more profound than that, and if he doesn't realise this, it's going to be trouble.
Kevin, I could not agree more with what you've just said. It's, you know, people talk about the coming civil war in this country. Some people, some hotheads on the internet are saying we're heading for a race war. I don't agree with any of that. I think what we have is a class war. We have a genuine class conflict on the streets of this country where you have ordinary, decent, working class communities standing up and saying we want our communities to be safe and we want them to be respected. And if you look at the counter-protesters on some of these demonstrations, the kind of lefty, pro-refugee, kind of blue-haired brigade, they're very often the graduate classes. They're very often more middle class. Some of them are on the cusp of being quite plummy and quite posh, in fact. You know, Green Party agitators who seem to have gone to Cambridge and Oxford. This is a class clash. This is a clash between ordinary working class people who want this country to be secure, who have a real respect for the idea of national sovereignty and borders, and who are worried that immigrants will undercut their safety and undercut their wages. And then on the other side, you have the more upper class sections of society who actually benefit from this influx of people because they get cheap labor. They get serf labor. They get people who can look after their kids and serve them their coffees in their posh coffee shops in the morning and deliver them their £50 Deliveroo meals on a Friday and a Saturday night. So they benefit from this new layer of badly paid illegal migrant workforce. So this is the real clash that's taking place in this country. There are decent working class people out there who know that our borders are too porous, that they're not being secured sufficiently, and that the people coming to this country pose an economic and a cultural threat. And until we have a government that listens to those working class communities, we're going to be in big trouble as a country.
And what I fear is I suspect that there are forces within the government, within the cabinet, who privately wouldn't mind if it really kicked off this weekend and we started to see horrible scenes like we did last summer, you know, bricks being thrown at the cops, attempts to set fire to asylum seeker hotels, that kind of thing, so that Keir and the gang could fall back into their comfort zone and start saying these are far-right thugs. I mean, what did he keep saying last? First of all, denying that there was two-tier policing last summer or two-tier justice. I mean, how could he? How could he? These people were in court and in jail within about 3 days. Other offenders have to wait 2 years. It was obviously two-tier. But I remember what he said. He said, these are not protests. These are just far-right thugs. Well, you know, none of us approved of those forms of protest, but they were protests and they were about the migrant crisis. And what will the protests be about? What are the protests this summer about? The migrant crisis. It hasn't gone away, and if it kicks off this weekend, if the weather's good, I fear it might, Keir Starmer will start talking about far-right thugs. This isn't protest, you know, dismissing these people's fears and concerns and worries once again. It's a disaster.
They are so dismissive of ordinary people. You know, I used to say quite often that this government and the previous government, to be fair, didn't understand ordinary people, didn't really know what we're thinking or what we believe. But actually, with this government, it's even worse than that. They know what we're thinking. They just hate us. They hate us for thinking it. They have utter contempt for ordinary working class communities who they look down upon as gammon. That's what they refer to these people as, gammon. And let's not forget what gammon is. Gammon is pig meat. They look at these people as pigs, as less than human, as xenophobes, as racists, as fascists. That's really what they think. And they've been so dismissive of every concern these communities have had. We all remember Lucy Powell, the leading Labour MP, who said that talking about the rape gangs was a dog whistle.
Whistle issue, yes.
Dog whistle issue. We remember Keir Starmer saying it's a far-right issue. Get off the far-right bandwagon, he would say. We all remember Jess Phillips in the Commons huffing and puffing and rolling her eyes because someone on the opposite benches was talking about the rape gangs. They were rolling their eyes and huffing and puffing over the rape of working-class girls. So the idea that they would take seriously the current crisis, which is the arrival of these undocumented, mysterious, mostly men from overseas who do pose a threat to this country, they're not going to take that seriously either. And in fact, they're going to look down their noses at the people raising concerns about them. But the thing is, Kevin, you're right. You can put a lid on these things for a period of time, but that lid will eventually blow off. And I hope it blows off in a peaceful way with people voting out this government and taking action and hitting the streets. But if you push that lid down too hard, it could possibly blow up in a more difficult way.
Well said, Brendan. Before we go to break, just a quick comment, if you will, about what already is emerging as a rather sinister tactic by this government. I mean, they've had this tactic for many years of trying to keep secret the ethnicity of people who commit serious crimes, particularly sex crimes. We're finding out the truth now. But their technique not to cause, incendiary unrest among the public was to try to make sure they didn't know this. Well, they seem to be falling back on this again, using this Online Safety Act, which of course they say is purely to protect children. Well, 2 weekends ago it was used to protect people from being able to watch the demonstration outside a Leeds asylum hotel. It's been used lots and lots of times to shut Twitter down. Any tweets about the migrants are getting shut down due to the Online Safety Act. And the worst example of this, which I still can't believe, is Katie Lamb, the rather good Tory shadow cabinet minister, made a speech in Parliament. This was not last week, the week before. She made a speech in Parliament saying we've got to be careful linking asylum seekers with this spiralling of crime, particularly sex crimes. She made a speech in Parliament and you couldn't see it. It was shut down by the Online Safety Act with a message saying you can't watch this because it's got harmful content. I mean, this seems to be Labour's technique. Look, we can't solve these crises. We can't solve these problems. Let's try and make sure that the public don't even find out they exist.
That's exactly what their approach is. And the Online Safety Act is a tool of state censorship. That's what it is. It's a tool of Orwellian control of the internet. They're scared of the internet because it's a pretty free zone in which people can talk and share ideas and share videos. They don't like that, so their instinct is to clamp down on it. They say that this is about protecting children, but actually what it's about turning all of us into children. It's about reducing the whole country to the level of a child who has to have his ears and his eyes covered by the government that knows better, the government that knows what's good for us. And it really speaks to this crisis of trust between the government of this country and the people of this country. They don't trust us. They don't trust us to know what's going on. They don't trust us to respond rationally to the problems this country faces. They don't trust us to have grown-up, reasoned debates about what's happening here. So their instinct is constantly to censor things and to demonize certain ideas and to say you're a far-right lunatic if you raise certain problems. It's that constant censorious paternalistic instinct, which is driven by a profound distrust and even disgust for ordinary people. And that's the role that the Online Safety Act plays. It's not about protecting children, it's about protecting the government from adults.
It's well put, well put. Listen, let's go to break now, Brendan. When we come back, we're going to talk about the outfit that I think may be at the epicenter of many of our national problems. It is the BBC, which strikes me is falling apart at the seams, an utter shambles. So we'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
absolutely shocking. They're not interested in representing the people that have elected them. They're letting everybody down on so many issues. Rush and I had spoken out against private renters being exploited and said that the government would empower people to challenge unreasonable rent increases. Yeah, they're now claiming that she hasn't broken any rules, any laws yet, but obviously we know what the government is trying to do on renters' reforms and so on and so forth. It just seems to me to be yet another example of do as I say, not do as I do. It's champagne socialism, champagne for me, socialism for everyone else. That seems to be what guides them. As I say, government of self-service.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with the chief political writer at Spiked Online and the excellent political and social commentator, Brendan O'Neill. Brendan, I know we've only booked you for half an hour, but I'm going to have to run through the problems at the BBC now, so it will take about 3 or 4 hours. Is that okay with you?
Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
seriously. 300,000 more households have stopped paying for their overpriced 170 quid a year TV licence fee. So the amount of people refusing to cough up to the state broadcaster now is in their minds reaching a kind of crisis level, so they're starting to talk about new ways to fleece us of money. I don't see the point. I think the purpose of the state broadcaster, which is in a terrible state, has reached the end of the line. I mean, when you understand that in America now 60% of all television viewing is done on YouTube. So the main channels are dying a death. In this country, the number of people watching YouTube just overtook ITV. And it is, catching up on the BBC. So the whole model of this big old Leviathan, this big state broadcaster that we all used to tune into all the time, looks a bit decrepit and anachronistic, to be honest with you. But we'll run through some of the other problems it's got at the moment, because it's just ridiculous. This organisation is just mired in constant scandal, staggers from one disaster to the next. So I think the worst thing about the BBC right now is I would suggest it is at the epicentre of our Jew hatred problem in this country, anti-Semitism, if you will. We had the Bob Villan debacle at Glastonbury, death to the IDF, screened live to millions of viewers, and then they stuck with the performance for 40 minutes. The Director General, Tim Davie, asked, oh, that was a mistake. Yeah, a mistake made by people who probably agreed that death to the IDF was a jolly good idea. Also, we've got the blatantly biased coverage of the Gaza conflict. The shocking failure to inform viewers that kid narrator on the documentary How to Survive a War Zone was the son of a Hamas minister. And worst of all, Brendan, I think it's the continuing stubborn failure by bosses to recognise that just maybe they might have a bit of an anti-Semitism issue. They won't have it, and that's a problem.
I think the BBC is responsible for a lot of the anti-Semitism in this country. And there is a lot in this country right now. There's an anti-Semitism crisis in Britain, as there is in many other countries in Europe. The Bob Villan thing that you mentioned there, which the BBC broadcast live, and we all know for a fact that if someone on that stage had said, I don't know,
death to the Muslim church, they'd have been off the air.
Yeah, or trans women are men, or some other unwoke view, they would have pressed the button, he'd have been off air. Yeah. But because it was death to the IDF, and the crowd, that kind of posh, white, bourgeois crowd of music fans went along with it, so did the BBC people. However, I think they had 900 people at Glastonbury, whatever the number of BBC people there was, and not one of them thought, maybe we should switch this off. But as we discovered this week, Kevin, you'll have seen this, the Community Security Trust, which is the brilliant Jewish organization that provides security for Jewish communities, they said there was a massive spike in anti-Semitic the day after the Bob Dylan performance. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the public broadcaster. We're talking about an unprecedented situation where the BBC, which we are compelled by law to fund, every one of us, broadcast something that gave rise to one of the worst spikes in anti-Semitism over the past few years. That's how serious this is. And as you say, the BBC is utterly biased on the Israel issue. It pumps into people's homes every single night of the week two ideas. Firstly, that this is the only war on earth, which, by the way, is not true. And secondly, that it's the worst war that has ever taken place, which is also not true. The BBC is warping people's understanding of that conflict, warping our understanding of what really caused that conflict and who's responsible for it. And that is a highly irresponsible thing for the public broadcaster to do.
It really, really is. So if I can run you through a few, shall we say, more mundane problems. I mean, it's just a ridiculous list, remembering, of course, unfondly the shambles surrounding Hugh Edwards, the shambles surrounding Gary Lineker and his many tweets, one of them definitely very anti-Semitic, whatever he says. Do you remember he said, he's just given an interview, by the way, said, "I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just anti-killing children." Yeah, very vocal about the children of Gaza being killed. Not particularly vocal, I remember, after October the 7th, when a lot of Jewish children were killed. Not a word from him then. So sort of warped, a kind of divided approach by Lineker there. He's gone, though. I'm just going to quickly run you through some of the other things going on right now. Well, we know about MasterChef. MasterChef fired Greg Wallace. It sounds like he sort of kind of deserved it. Constant inappropriate behaviour around women. John Turode, for once using the N-word, seems a bit draconian to sack him from a job he'd done for 25 years, but he's gone as well. But they've made this garbled decision. They sacked the two presenters, but they had a series in the can, so they made this garbled decision. Oh, we'll put it out anyway. So it started this week, and Wallace and Turode have been edited right down to the point you'd hardly know they were there, but they are still sort of there. There's no interaction with the contestants, but they're just sort of there going, all right, you know. So they're still on it. Loads of viewers just said, well, look, you've demonised these two. You told them you told us they were a horror. And we don't want to see this now. So the viewing figures, the ratings are down by 1 million. And the reason that they decided, Tim Davie and his gang decided to put this series out was this. Because they didn't want to let down the contestants who'd put their heart and soul into this series and needed this, or were hoping that this would be their big break into the culinary world. I mean, you know, respect to the contestants, but that's not a reason. I mean, what on earth are they thinking?
You know, the MasterChef thing really sums up the moral confusion of the BBC, the moral collapse of the BBC, I would say, because I think there's a few things going on here. Firstly, I think the BBC, what it did to Greg Wallace and John Turode, I think Greg Wallace clearly behaved pretty badly around women. John Turode, I think what they did to him was unforgivable. He used the N-word, allegedly used the N-word once while singing along to a song. That, in my view, for someone who has worked for you for a very long time, is not a sackable offence. It seems to me that they're overcorrecting for the mess-ups they made in the past. They messed up catastrophically with Jimmy Savile, as we all know. They messed up catastrophically with Hugh Edwards, who was front and centre of their reporting, and it turned out he was a very dodgy fellow. They messed up catastrophically on various other scandals. They just didn't see these things coming, and they sat on their hands and they didn't solve them fast enough. So they're overcorrecting for that now by witch hunting men who might just be a bit saucy and tell rude jokes and sing along to rap songs they probably shouldn't sing along to. So there's that firstly. I think what they've done to both Greg Wallace and John Turode is, I think, personally slightly over the top. But then they make that decision and then go along with the program by whittling down some of the comments these two guys make, cutting out all their jokes, cutting out their interaction with the cooks and chefs, and saying, let's not show them talking to these people, because they want to make money from this series. They say it's about helping the chefs, but actually it's because they spend a lot of money and they want to make
the money in it. Yeah, it's the money.
It's such a confused organization. They don't know whether they're coming or going. And if I was Greg Wallace and John Torode, I'd be really angry that they got treated so badly and they're still on air in this whittled down way. The BBC is a mess.
Yeah, and let me just quickly run through some of the other current problems it's got. It's got a big problem at the BBC Breakfast Show, where both the hosts, Charlie State and Naga Manchetti, are under investigation for alleged bullying, and the editor of the show is on extended leave for the same reason. Also at the corporation, a female star's future, we don't know the name, but she's said to be in big trouble. Her future is on the line after she is alleged to have shown a picture of male genitalia, some bloke's todger to some junior employee. Don't forget, we've got the ongoing psychodrama at Strictly Come Dancing, the bullying, sexually inappropriate behaviour, and so on and so forth. It doesn't seem, this organisation, to be able to do literally anything right.
Exactly. And you know what I find hard to figure out here, Kevin, is all this stuff real, or has the BBC made a rod for its own back by going along this kind of bullying route? Because I'm not the biggest fan of Naga Manchetti. I think she's a bit of an annoyance. That's my personal view. But I'm not convinced she's necessarily a bullying kind of person. And I do think sometimes there's an over-definition of the word bullying. And you do have these kind of younger, woke members of staff. I'm hoping Talk doesn't have this problem. I'm sure your young members of staff are very morally robust.
They have to put up with me, so they can't be too woke, I'll tell you that.
Exactly. So, but in workplaces now, there is this problem with very young people who've been mollycoddled, and they're hyper woke, and they think their self-esteem is the most sacred thing in the entire world. So if someone shouts at them and says, that wasn't done properly, you were late, where have you been, what's going on? They think that's bullying. So I wonder if that might be what's happening at the BBC Breakfast. But if that is what's happening, that's the BBC's own fault, because it has absolutely drowned itself in the woke ideology. It is up to its neck in the anti-whiteness, the anti-Brexit, the anti-Israel stuff. Every fashionable woke bourgeois opinion is running riot at the BBC. So if they are now being hoisted by their own petard in terms of all this wokeness coming home to roost and all these bullying accusations, I'm sorry, they made their own bed and they're going to have to lie in it.
Yeah, you're right. They're self-harming. Strictly is still on a journey. I'll tell you, they've killed off one of their most popular programmes, oldest popular programme, MasterChef. I'll tell you, they are in the process of killing off the most popular programme, Strictly, by this same kind of insular process, whereby they start saying, oh, anybody who said anything or did anything is in trouble, all these investigations. They are self-harming. They are consuming themselves into oblivion. But I think the main point, last question I'd like to ask you, Brendan, thanks very much for an excellent half an hour, rather more than that, actually, is all of this surely means that this TV licence fee, it's got to end, hasn't it? Because if nothing else, because of what I was saying to you at the beginning, viewing habits are so different. I mean, most kids, when I say kids, younger people, teenagers in their 20s, I mean, they can't even spell BBC. Well, that's an educational problem. But no, seriously, they don't care about the BBC. They watch YouTube. They don't care about their license. It's the whole concept of this huge leviathan of a state broadcaster churning out scheduled television. It's anachronistic. It's got to end, and we've got to stop being forced to pay for it. If they went private, had to pay for themselves, they can have all the trouble they like. But since we've got to pay for them and they can't seem to get their act together, then we should stop having to pay for them, right?
I completely agree. You know, I'm old enough to remember when there were 4 channels. In fact, I can remember when there were 3 channels. I'm that old. And the BBC was a big deal back then. There was BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV, and it made sense that the BBC was the public broadcaster. There wasn't that much choice, and that's what it was. Now things are completely different, and people pick and choose what they want to watch. I subscribe to about 6 different streaming channels. I pay for them every month. I'm happy to do so because I watch what they produce, and it's pretty much mostly good stuff. The BBC needs to become part of that. It needs to become a streaming channel that you can choose to opt into or opt out of. And, you know, the thing is, there are 2 reasons the BBC needs to change. Firstly, because there's more choice now, and the BBC needs to compete with the Netflixes of the world and sink or swim. That's the way it goes. And secondly, because this is a public broadcaster that no longer recognizes or represents the public. And in fact, it has contempt for the public. It looks down its nose at the public. It's the anti-public broadcaster, and that's why it's got to change.
Yeah, it is a broadcaster that hates its own audience, and that is not a good recipe for success in the broadcasting industry. Brendan, what a fantastic half an hour. You're always welcome on this show. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Brendan O'Neill, Chief Political Writer, Spiked Online, brilliant social commentator as well. What do you think about, well, everything you were saying? Remarkable stuff, if you ask me. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. We've overrun. We better go to break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, we kind of overran with Brendan, but that tends to happen with Brendan. He's a fantastic talker, isn't he, Pete?
Oh, he's brilliant. Probably one of the most important voices in Britain right now.
He really
is. I don't always agree with him, but he makes a passionate argument, a compelling argument.
The thing is, I always do. I do always agree with him. I think you could sense that from our conversation. Everything I said.
Sitting here and watching that was quite an experience.
It was a bit of a love-in, wasn't it, between the two?
I was like, I'll just see myself out.
Right, what just happened? My incredible TV show starts in about 20 minutes now. Here is a taster. It is really, isn't it, Samara? I mean, he's only got himself. It is all his fault. All these crises that he finds himself at the centre of, like Centre Barley, like the row with his brother, like the row with his dad and the whole of the royal family. The common denominator is him. There's something about this guy. He can't get along with other people. We're talking about Harry there, of course, you must have guessed, and there were my fabulous co-stars, Samara Gill, looking at her right now, she's my producer as well, and of course Flash Ash Gold in his tie, looking good. So, hell of a show tonight, I hope you enjoy it. Starts in 20 minutes. If you're listening on the radio, it's very radio friendly, but if you're watching on television, you can actually see me in all my glory, and my brilliant co-stars as well. And if you happen to miss tonight, but if you do, as of about 9:30 tomorrow morning, it's on YouTube, and then you can watch it anytime you damn well like for the rest of all time. Can't say fairer than that. What just happened in 20 minutes? Let's go straight to the phones. Let's talk to Charlotte in Berkshire, who wants to talk about Bournemouth. You grew up in Bournemouth, did you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I lived in Bournemouth pretty much shortly after I was born and was brought up there, and then he left when I went to university. So, yeah, pretty much born and bred Bournemouth. Don't recognise it now.
Have you been back lately at all, Charlotte?
I have. Some of my family still live down there. My mum was quite ill, so I used to pop down there and just go and stroll down the beach. And my children, obviously, saying I went down to the beach when I was a kid, and it was great, and Bournemouth Beach is beautiful, and all the rest of it. I went down a couple of years ago. I didn't recognise it, and it actually really scared me.
Yeah, the beach, Charlotte, I gather, is a real crime hotspot. Very, very dangerous, apparently, which is a tragedy. That was literally Britain's favourite beach, beautiful beach, and now it's a danger zone. That's so sad, isn't it?
Well, I can tell you, when I was similar age to my children, I was sort of 12, 13 years of age, I used to get the local bus down to the beach on my own and just go and lie on the beach all day, go in and out of the sea, go and get myself an ice cream. I was totally on my own. Yeah. Not at any point did I feel unsafe. Yeah. I went down a couple of years ago. I've got two boys, teenagers. Yeah. But a couple of years ago, they were a little bit younger, and I was keeping very much an eye on them. And it was quite early evening. It was absolutely rammed with a lot of people that didn't look like me, who didn't speak.
Yeah, you're talking about talking about probably asylum seekers staying at the local.
I don't know whether they were asylum seekers or not. There were a lot of people, and at first I thought, this is great atmosphere. It was early evening, and everyone was getting barbecues out. But what I found, it felt edgy.
Yes.
There was a group of men who literally just watched me and watched my children. Oh, God. And there was definitely a lot of smoking of some interesting
stuff.
And it certainly wasn't.
Can't just blame Bournemouth for that. That's a national problem, I think. Yeah.
No, but
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Bearing in mind, it was
not very nice for you with the kids.
I did not take my eyes off those boys, and this particular part of the beach. My parents and we used to go down there all the time when we were kids.
It's very sad, Charlotte, because it was
really sad.
It's the epitome of an effete, refined. It's the ultimate British seaside resort, wasn't it? And now, I'm told it is really horrible.
Well, I can go a little bit further than that, because obviously, because kids now don't really get jobs until they're, 16, 17 years of age.
Well, most of them don't get jobs at all.
Well, there's an awful lot of them that don't even want jobs, but we had to have jobs, and I used to just be a waitress in a local hotel, and I had the bus from my house didn't take me near the hotel, so I got dropped off down in the town centre and had to walk all the way up through the high street, which was probably a good 15, 20-minute walk.
Yeah.
And I was going out there early evening, but I used to walk down through there 9, 10 o'clock at night as a 15, 16, 17-year-old girl on my own.
Now you wouldn't tell any young girl to do that, would you?
You used to have some Herberts, and they were drinking and getting a bit leery. I just used to cross the road, just avoid them. Absolutely no way would I even let my boys go through there, never mind a young girl on their own.
It's very
no way.
It's very sad, Charlotte. Charlotte, listen, thank you for the call. Keep in touch, call me again. That was great. Charlotte in Berkshire there. We've got some WhatsApp voice notes. This is Pete on migration.
How many more lies and how much more corruption would it take until this government has to resign? Because a few lies and Boris was out. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, all she kept doing it was blaming Liz Truss. She doesn't mention Liz Truss anymore, does she? Oh, no. We all know why. But, every single day it's either a Labour minister telling lies and doing something wrong, or the Prime Minister telling lie after lie after lie.
Yeah, good point, Pete. I mean, this is a problem, isn't it, Pete?
It's probably one of the most profound problems we have. Is
the liar,
this
lying,
they feel that they have the power to do that. That is a really dangerous bit for our country right now. We have a lot of problems, but the fact that the government feel very confident that they can just keep doing this and doing this, and the point to answer this question is, there is no point to which they will resign because they don't see themselves as responsible or playing a role in anything that's like the negative of this. They think that they're doing the right thing, and I think that is the more perverse bit of it.
Listen, shall we... listen, I've got a couple... Matt in Cheshire, stick around, mate. We've got to go to break. We'll come to you after these messages. Stay tuned.
They are absolutely shocking. They're not interested in representing the people that have elected them. They're letting everybody down on so many issues. Rushnara had spoken out against private renters being exploited and said that the government would empower people to challenge unreasonable rent increases. Yeah, they're now claiming that she hasn't broken any rules, any laws yet, but obviously we know what the government is trying to do on renters' reforms and so on and so forth. It just seems to me to be yet another example of do as I say, not do as I do. It's champagne socialism, champagne for me, socialism for everyone else. That seems to be what guides them. As I say, government of self-service.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'll go to Matt in Cheshire in just a second, but first here's a WhatsApp voice note. Judith on migration.
Hi Kevin, it's Judith here from Radlett. Do you remember David Cameron's Hug a Hoodie scheme? Probably about 10, 15 years ago. Well, this is obviously Hug a Migrant scheme from Sama. Hug a Migrant scheme. Yeah, hug 1, 2, 3, 4, 500, 5,000, 50,000. You get my drift, Kevin. Anyway, be listening to your show. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Judith. Yeah, that's one hell of a lot of hugging we have to do now. It's getting ridiculous. I remember, Pete, I remember, was it Sajid Javid saying, oh my God, we've had 419 migrants across the channel this month. This is a national crisis.
I know, yeah. Doesn't that seem like a long time ago?
419 in a month. We'd sort of break out the champagne now for that.
A friend of mine who used to work at the Home Office calls this policy the pass the migrant policy.
Pass the migrant.
Is it a pass the parcel? It's pass the migrant.
Migrant, and of course now we've got swap of foreigners, so it's good, isn't it? Sorry, he's been waiting a long time. Let's go to Matt in Cheshire. Hi, Matt.
Hi, good evening, Kev.
Hi.
It was just a few comments on the 1 in, 1 out deal.
No, well, technically it's 17 in, 1 out, yeah, but go on.
To my understanding, the more bogus the claim, the longer it can be strung out. With no access to information, or they have no need to give us any information. The French could empty their prisons and send them over here, and then they could veto us sending them choir boys in return.
I think you're right. Yeah. It's apparently the details of this deal are just dreadful, confirming once again, Matt, what everybody knows, that Keir Starmer is the worst negotiator in the history of negotiating. He's dreadful.
Yeah, what it actually shows is how desperate he is.
He's desperate.
It's desperation. This deal was done out of nothing but political desperation because he had to do something.
But then again, you know, he has agreed in this desperation desperate deal to some ridiculous clauses. Worst thing, Matt, is this. We found out this only a couple of days ago. Two things he didn't tell us at the press conference with Macron. One, it was only going to last a year. We've only got 11 months of it left now. Two, in fact, it's less than that.
It's less than that,
It finishes next June. He didn't tell us that at the press conference. And two, if these migrants that we choose to send back to France, 1 in 17, if they then lodge a human rights complaint, that complaint has to be heard in the courts and we have to wait for the full process to happen, and that will take years. In other words, how many migrants do you reckon might cite their human rights? At a rough guess, I'd say in the region of 100%, wouldn't you?
Keir Starmer will be pointing all these human rights lawyer friends to represent all these people.
Well, no, they're already, Matt. They're all. It's not so much him. They're not the human rights lawyers. They're immigration lawyers who will lodge the human rights case because the human rights will ensure that their clients stay here. The most absurd aspect of our migrant crisis and our attitude to these people who break into our country illegally, coming across the channel illegally on small boats, is the first thing we do is give them a free lawyer to fight their case to stay. So those lawyers will immediately lodge human rights complaints, and that means that their clients, these migrants chosen for deportation, will not be deported. Do you see?
My idea was, do you know how Glastonbury is fenced off and sort of like a compound? Why not put them in there when Glastonbury's finished? And, you know, it's big enough for a lot of people. There's plenty of tents left over.
My idea about Glastonbury, and next time it happens, I don't think they're having it next year, thank God. But the next time they have the 200,000 people go there, once they're in, let them enjoy the food, lock the doors and don't let them out. That way we get rid of the 200,000 worst people in Britain. What do you reckon?
I think that's probably a great idea.
There you go, Matt. Thanks for a great call. You have a good weekend. Thank you, Matt.
It's such an important point, though, is actually it's the charity sector, the NGOs, which are actually, these are law firms, basically, and they're profiting out of the migrant crisis. It is an industry. Absolutely. It's one of the reasons that, you know, that this pilot scheme's nonsense, because it doesn't tackle any of that. They are coaching people on how to kind of circumvent it, and they are making a fortune out of it.
Exactly. Heather has sent me a quick message here. This disgusting and disgraceful Prime Minister and this government terrorising people and trashing our country completely. This scumbag government are the terrorists ruining our country. That is typical of the feeling that is bubbling under, that's boiling over in this country. Quick one here from Hev. HEV. I don't agree with Brendan about the TV licence. We are not all held by law to pay for one. He didn't really mean that. It's just that if you want to watch the BBC, you have to pay for it. Hev goes on to say, I don't have one and I haven't for years, and I'm not breaking the law. I don't have a TV. I have YouTube. That's my point. Yeah. That's my point. But, you know, millions of people still do want to watch the BBC, and they get forced by law to pay 170 quid. And this whole legal compulsory nature of the TV licence, that's anachronistic. It's got to finish.
It's actually incredibly sexist as well, because it tends to be women that organise it within the home, and actually, because it's their name on the licences, they're the ones that get into trouble.
And they're the ones that answer the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And this is the only country in the world, still is potential, the only country in the world that potentially will imprison its citizens for not paying for television entertainment. You know, sometimes we don't realise what a weird country this can be. Yeah. It sends you to prison because you didn't pay to watch Strictly Come Dancing. Welcome to Mad Britain. Seriously, it's got to end, that rubbish. It's got to end. Let's quickly take a final call from Paul in Southampton. Hello, Paul. What would you like to say?
Hello, Kev. Yeah, just this thing on these migrants and the fact that they're allowed to walk around and molest our young girls is... I mean, we're not going to be allowed to stick them on a deserted island up in Scotland and just leave them there till they want to go home, because there's no government got the guts to do it. But why are they not putting fencing around these hotels and stopping these people from walking around?
Well, but, I mean, because the system is that, you know, once they claim asylum, we take the political decision that they haven't broken any laws, they're free people, and we will process their asylum seeker applications. It's a political decision. People say, well, actually, once they cross the channel, once they step on the beach and claim their asylum, then they're legal. No, that's not true. That isn't true. They are still lawbreakers, but this country takes the political decision that claiming asylum means your previous law-breaking, on an unlawful vessel coming across the channel, you're law-breaking, stepping foot on our shores illegally without documents. We take the decision that's all forgotten, and we will then process your asylum application. It's mad, but legally, there isn't really any way we can, under our current system, detain them or stick them in detention centres or put fences around the hotels. We can't do that. That's the madness of it, Paul. They turn up here, and that's it. They're here.
Well, yeah, well, maybe that might be so, but there's nothing saying that we can't give them tents, stick them on an uninhabited island up in Scotland with no boats, and saying you're just going to have to wait there.
Well, there isn't any reason why we can't do that. I'm not sure there's...
It'll fall under the Human Rights Act of unfair and unlawful treatment.
Yeah, well, it'll never happen. I mean, in theory, I like the idea, but it'll never happen because of human rights, as Pete just said.
The one place we should put them is the Ascension Islands, because the